to Sunday morning medication. I think I said medication instead of meditation, but I think this meditation is kind of like a medication. I want to talk today about the voice in our head. I'm sure you all recognize the fact that you are having multiple internal conversations, probably from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep again. And sadly, these are often not very positive, kind, or beneficial. There are multiple reasons for that voice in the head, and the voice in our head that is a creation of our own mind has some beneficial properties as well. Could act as a good warning, as a reminder for what we should or shouldn't be doing. It could be kind, reminding us our strength, our resources, our past experiences, how we've overcome challenges. And yet often it seems to be very, very critical, narrating the story of our lives in a manner that is not very helpful or supportive. What do we do with it? How do we address this internal conversation in a way that is both kind and yet shows strength in what we're willing to listen to and what we would like to send away? Sometimes I think of this voice as a very childish, nagging voice, and other times it could be a reflection of a critical parent. Our internal relationship with ourselves, of course, affect our relationship with others, with the world. And this is just one reason why checking what is happening with the voice in our head, with that creation of our mind, is important and helpful. I was listening to a podcast by an academic, a professor. I don't remember right now. Maybe I'll put it in the comments. But of course, this issue of this internal conversation, the stories we tell ourselves, the things that come up right in the mind, it's not new. This is a lifelong practice. History speaks of it. Different traditions address it. From perhaps times in like medieval times when this was considered the devil, sometimes in your head, to modern times where we know we are really creating all of this. So that's the exploration, the reflection for today, and I invite you to find a comfortable position. And then gently close your eyes. I'm going to sound the meditation bell in just a moment. An invitation. An invitation for reflection and relaxation. As you are, inviting comfort into the body, tuning the attention to the breath as it is, wherever you notice it most, perhaps in the rise and fall of the chest, maybe in the sensation of the air as it comes through the nostrils and then exits warmer through the nose or the mouth. wherever the breath is, simply being with it, noticing, allowing the nervous system to ease into relaxation. As the breath becomes smooth, comfortable, and calm, the body follows. And we can scan the body from the top of the head and wherever we place attention, inviting comfort and relaxation. The forehead releasing, face muscles relaxing, jaws loosening, perhaps inviting a gentle parting of the lips, allowing the neck, the throat, a softening and opening with relaxation. Send a wave of relaxation from your shoulders, down your arms to your fingertips. And as the attention now flows to the chest, notice with each in-breath an invitation for relaxation. Each out-breath sends relaxation throughout the body and the mind. Abdomen, lower back releasing, inviting the pelvis area, supported by the surface on which you're sitting or lying, into relaxation. Upper legs releasing, knees releasing. Lower legs with attention, inviting comfort and relaxation. Now the ankles, the feet, the arch of the foot, the toes, releasing and relaxing. Take a moment, simply coming back to the breath. And if the breath is not your anchor, you can always come to the sensations of the body and where it connects with the surface on which you are lying or sitting. Take a moment, just be. With the breath. I invite you to contemplate the question, whose voice is it in my mind? Whose voice is it in my mind? Who is speaking? Are you hearing the truth of your own contemplation? Or are there a chorus of voices commenting arguing, who is speaking. How often do we find ourselves having a complete conversation in our mind, and perhaps having enough awareness to notice the story that is being told is fiction? Who planted the story in our mind? Who is in charge of the narration? Commonly, we are advised to befriend ourselves, to notice conversations that go on in the mind and ask the simple question: would you say that to a friend? Would you say that to a beloved family member? Probably not. And yet, when we listen to the story we are telling ourselves, it is often critical, unkind, disempowering. That is not to say that the truth should not be told. Can we tell the truth to ourselves more kindly? There can be benefit in internal conversations, of course. You may want to run a scenario of a conversation with someone else, and while truly you cannot completely anticipate their words, their reaction, it may provide you with a template for a conversation that will take place. As long as you are encouraging yourself to have a productive, beneficial, kind conversation. Another very beneficial aspect of the conversations in the mind are when teaching or going into a lecture. These are productive and serve a great purpose. But what about those other conversations? imagining complete arguments with someone else without the intention of resolution, benefit, or kindness? What about that critical voice? Does it remind you of a childhood relationship? Often we seem to internalize the voice of the more critical parent, so much so that it becomes our own critical voice against ourselves. But it could be a teacher or other person that had great influence on us during childhood years. Does your voice tell you that you're not good enough, that you're not thin enough, that you're not young enough, that you haven't succeeded enough? Does it tend to do comparisons with the people around you, what they have or don't have? How much you are better than them or worse than them? How pointless are these conversations? Take a moment as I grow silent and simply explore what comes up in the mind. What shows itself to you? I find for most people, myself included, that managing kindly the voice in my mind is a life-changing and transforming experience. How do we do that? So we've already mentioned one aspect of it, which is speaking to yourself as a friend, with love, with compassion. Another aspect is noticing what is real and what is fake news. There is so much that is not real that comes up in the mind. We are reminded in the mindfulness, in Buddhist practices, and in other disciplines as well, we are not our thoughts. You can have the most terrible thoughts come up in your mind and be a wonderful, kind, compassionate person. The harm that they are doing is mostly to you. Acceptance, forgiveness, compassion, all overused terms that turn into somewhat cliché and yet so true. It helps to speak to yourself in third person when this process takes place. It creates just enough distance so you become the observer of you. And you can say to yourself, this is simply not true. You can say, you don't really know that to be true. Not knowing as a practice can be challenging in itself, and yet there is great freedom in acknowledging all that we don't know. Can you choose what comes up in the mind? Perhaps not. Can you choose what you let stay there and fester and grow and become bigger than truth, bigger than life? Yes, that is possible. We all carry wounds from childhood. We may have had an untraumatic, uneventful series of experience in childhood, and yet small things affect us in childhood greatly. A comment from a teacher, a critical parent, as I mentioned before, being excluded from a group of friends that happens, middle school or earlier. All of these experiences have left their mark on us. And they influence what comes up in the mind. With awareness, with reflection, we can kindly notice and say, oh, that is an old habit I have. I can see when this happens, these are the thoughts that rise in the mind. Can I speak to myself then with kindness, with forgiveness, and say, I see you. I understand where it's coming from. And yet it is no longer relevant in my life. In fact, we can take this a step further and bring up a narrative, a story, a series of thoughts, so to speak, that is both close to the truth and supportive and beneficial. Let's say I have made a mistake and I recognize it as such. Does this mean that this mistake defines me? Can I step back and become the observer and notice all the good I've done? Can I embrace the fact that I'm human and I make mistakes? Accept, forgive, perhaps atone or correct if possible. The story that then rises is one of benefit, learning from a mistake, seeing the bigger picture of the human being that I am, and moving forward with awareness, with intention, with kindness. When the internal conversation is healthier, beneficial, kind, what we spread around us as we interact with people that come in our path is loving and kindness. When we walk around the mind full of comparisons, not positive ones, about ourselves, about others, what we spread is division and separation. Can you befriend yourself enough that you notice when the story that comes up is not true, not supportive, that the conclusions that you're reaching in your mind are not beneficial? And then change the story. Not to some other fiction, but to some story that is closer to what is true and is rooted in kindness, acceptance, and forgiveness. Take your time and contemplate. I invite you, notice what comes up in the mind, evaluate it for its truthfulness, for its benefit or otherwise, and with kindness, as if you spoke to a friend. Change the narrative. Choose the stories that are running in the mind. Notice thoughts, emotions, and beliefs that come up that are just old habits. And let them go again and again as this process unfolds. And in doing so, bring calm and peacefulness into your being. Soon the bell will sound, indicating the completion of today's practice. As you bring movement into the body, as you bring movement into the body, I wish you a beautiful, wonderful day. Until we meet again, thank you for joining me. Goodbye.